Welcome back to the Crypto Channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is continuing to play out the short-term warning signal, which means the price of Bitcoin is now starting to retest a very important area on the price chart that we need to pay attention to. And this is happening as the Bitcoin ETFs are now starting to dump Bitcoin once again, causing some sell pressure in the short term, while Ethereum is now and still retesting this crucial line on the price chart, while Solana is continuing to struggle at this exact area of resistance. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, taking a quick look at the US stock market, giving you a quick update on what happened over the last one day. Obviously, we did see a decent open towards the upside at the beginning of yesterday's trading day, but then throughout the trading day, we did see a bit of a pullback to close that small little gap that was created in this S&P 500 index on the 1 hour time frame. So technically speaking, this bearish divergence has not yet fully been invalidated, which means we are obviously still struggling a little bit, basically just cooling off a little bit here in the US stock market in the short term. And now obviously, as I'm recording this video and for the weekend, in fact it's a long weekend, so even on Monday the US stock market is closed and it will open back up again on Tuesday. So basically over the weekend we still have this to watch out for, to basically look forward to on Tuesday when the stock market opens back up again, which means perhaps over the weekend this could cause a little bit of weakness in the crypto market. And so that's something to pay attention to moving forward and to be aware of right now, at least in the short term for stocks and crypto. And if we're taking a look at some Bitcoin news today, we now have the numbers for the inflows and outflows for yesterday, for Friday, for the spot Bitcoin ETFs. And it was actually the first net outflow that we saw for this last 1 week. And so obviously throughout the week, we had some pretty solid inflows, especially on Tuesday and Wednesday, of 753 million and 840 million respectively coming into the Bitcoin ETFs just on Tuesday and Wednesday. But then we finished off the week on Friday with a net outflow of almost 400 million US dollars, around $394 million. So obviously finish off the week with a bit of sell pressure turning around from all of those previous inflows. And so once again, the spot Bitcoin ETFs trade on the US stock market. So because the stock market's closed over the weekend and also will be closed on Monday, we won't see any new inflows or outflows until Tuesday when the stock market opens back up again, which means perhaps over the weekend, we may have a little bit of weakness in the crypto market due to how we finished off the week in the ETFs and the stock market. So with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on the weekly time frame, nothing's changed over the last 1 day. This super trend indicator is still sitting in the red, and still technically we have a major bearish divergence to watch out for, which has not yet been invalidated, but is moving closer towards an invalidation. And yes, there is a possible hidden bullish divergence, which is potentially already starting to confirm. And of course, that would also be an invalidation signal pointing towards the invalidation of this larger bearish divergence. But keep in mind, a typical divergence is more powerful or more significant than a hidden divergence. So ideally, I'd like to see a little bit more confirmation to invalidate the larger bearish divergence to be more confident that the hidden bullish divergence is actually starting to play out alongside, of course, the smaller traditional bullish divergence, which has also already been playing out over the last couple of weeks or so here on the 3-day Bitcoin price chart. And so overall, if we're talking about the next week, maybe the next couple of weeks, that sort of time frame, it is still quite likely we'll continue a little bit more of a bullish relief, maybe a bit of choppy sideways price action here and there. Remember, it's not a straight line. We can see little cool-offs along the way, especially perhaps over this weekend, as I just said earlier with the US stock market and how the ETFs looked at the end of the week. But once again, over the next 1 or 2 weeks at least, I do expect this shorter-term bullish divergence to continue to have an effect on the price of Bitcoin, playing out a bit of a relief, kind of like what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. And if we're zooming into the daily Bitcoin price chart, we're still holding above this crucial area of previous resistance, now acting as new support. And in fact, right now, we're potentially just coming in for a retest of this very important area on the price chart, which, in case you're new to the channel, is sitting in between around 92,000 to 94,000. But especially that 94K level, that is a key level to pay attention to for the price of Bitcoin on the Bitcoin price chart. And so once again, at least for now, it is currently acting as support, which is still good news when we're talking about what to expect maybe over the next couple of weeks. Remember, the next couple of days, we could still be playing out a bit of a retest, a bit of a cool off, which I'll talk about in just a moment in the short term. But overall, while we're holding above 92 to 94K, we're looking pretty good here on the daily time frame. And the next significant resistance is at give or take 100,000. And above that, we also have another significant level of resistance at around 106,000. But in between those levels, we also have a technical price target for this inverse head and shoulders pattern, a bullish price pattern, which is still active while the price of Bitcoin is holding above 94,000. Technically speaking, this price pattern is still currently active with a technical price target at give or take $103,000 per Bitcoin. So keep that in mind. But once again, it's unlikely we'll go straight towards that price target in a straight line. In fact, already, obviously, we're having a bit of a struggle in the short term, like I've said throughout the video and recent videos here on the channel, with the stock market struggling a bit in the short term, especially now with that sell pressure ending the week in the Bitcoin ETFs. Like I said, once again, many times, this is likely going to cause a little bit of a struggle, especially over this weekend. But that is still perfectly okay for as long as we're holding above the 94K level. It's perfectly okay to see a bit of a pullback, a bit of a sideways consolidation, a slowdown in the short term over the weekend. But for as long as we're holding above 94K, holding that as support in the new week, potentially Tuesday, Wednesday, when the stock market opens back up again, if we see, for example, more inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs, if we see the stock market recover again in the new week, in that situation, of course, it is entirely possible, and in fact likely we could continue this breakout further towards the upside maybe over the next 1 or 2 weeks, for as long as we ideally hold above that 94K level. That is a crucial level to pay attention to on the price chart. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 6-hour Bitcoin price chart, of course, another reason as to why we're seeing this short-term cool off and a slight little pullback and a retest of that 94K level is due to the fact that we're still actively playing out this short-term bearish divergence. As I warned about over the last few days here on the channel, you can check my last few videos talking about this short-term bearish divergence. Obviously, higher highs in the price, lower highs in the RSI, which means it's extremely likely that just for the next few days or so, remember this is only a short-term signal, just for the next few days, expect most likely either a slight pullback, maybe some choppy sideways price action, basically showing a bit of weakness, lacking bullish momentum, and this will likely be the case for the rest of the weekend, maybe even over Monday as well, considering once again the stock market's closed on Monday. And so honestly, what is a very likely scenario is the price continuing to retest that 94K level, give or take, not necessarily the exact level, it might be 94.3K, might even dip slightly below 94K, but for as long as we're holding above that level in terms of the candle closes here, holding roughly that area on the price chart as support, once again, it's still good news. So that's likely what's going to happen over the next couple of days here, just still showing a bit of weakness in the shorter term, lacking bullish momentum. But like I've been saying, once again, if we still hold that level in the new week, we can potentially continue further towards the upside later on. And so that is my exact prediction moving forward in the shorter term and the mid to longer term situation, and the key levels to watch out for moving forward and the key signals to watch out for. And in terms of my trading strategy over the last 1 day, it's not really changed at all. I'm still technically in this $100,000 Bitcoin long position, which did start out to be a $150,000 Bitcoin long position. But as I explained over the last couple of days, I took profits at literally this exact high within about $100, a couple $100 of this exact high. Even watch my last few videos here on the channel. I showed all of my orders completely transparently here on the channel, closing a portion of this trade, a third of this trade, taking some profits at pretty much around 97,500, give or take. And I simply did that and explained here on the channel why I did that, due to the fact that we had this short-term warning signal, most likely about to cause this slight little pullback, which obviously is now happening exactly as expected. And as I expect moving forward, my exact prediction right now is for this to continue a little longer, most likely for the weekend, which means maybe for the weekends this long position could suffer a little bit, so keep that in mind. But once again, for as long as we're holding above that 94K level, I'm still remaining in this position because this technical price target for the inverse head and shoulders pattern remains active while we're holding above 94K. And so as of recording this video, the current Bitcoin long position I'm in has just dropped into a slight little unrealized loss, only 100 USD or so in an unrealized loss. But once again, realized profits still roughly 1,000 USD. Obviously, there's been some slight funding fees taken out of that. So still give or take 1,000 USD realized profits, about 100 USD USD in unrealized profits. So overall, it's still actually a profitable trade, even though as of recording this video, the price is slightly below my entry. And in terms of closing this trade or taking more profits out of this position, that trading strategy has not changed over the last 1 day. So like I've explained over the last few days, obviously if we break below 94K with confirmation, and especially if we fail to get back above that level, I'll basically just get out of this trade to avoid potential further losses in that worst case scenario if we break and confirm a break below that level. But in terms of take profits, let's just say if we eventually bounce back towards the upside again in the new week, for example, then at certain levels towards the upside, like for example, just before 103,000, this target right here, just before that level, I'll take a bit of profits off the table. Also just before any key point of resistance, like I said earlier, I'll also take a bit of profits off the table, just slightly reducing the size of the trade at each of those levels, but not necessarily closing the entire trade at any one level. And so that is still my exact trading strategy moving forward for the price of Bitcoin, showing very transparently, completely for free here on YouTube, exactly how I'm planning to make profits from the coming Bitcoin movements. As a very likely scenario, as always, there's no such thing as a 100% guarantee, but just based on all of this information, giving you one of the most likely probabilities, and of course what I'm just simply doing with my own money, not financial advice. And obviously if you want to take trades just like this for yourself in the price of any crypto asset, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on the BTNX crypto exchange, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below the video. In fact, the third link below this video will take you to the BTNX exchange, which by the way is a no KYC exchange, which is the exchange that I'm currently trading on right now. And on top of that, if you want another option out there, which is also a no KYC exchange that currently has huge bonuses happening right now, then check out the first link below this video in the description and in the pinned comment, because the first link below this video will take you to the 2bit crypto exchange, which is another exchange that I personally use myself. And it's also, by the way, a no KYC exchange in case you're wondering. And currently there's some huge bonuses here that you can claim using that link below the video just by making an account, for example, completing deposits or trading bonuses, etc. Huge bonuses you can take advantage of using that first link below the video to 2bit. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check it out. Once again, first link below the video. And on top of these major bonuses that you can claim using that link below the video, 2bit also just recently partnered with La Liga. So there's also a massive trading competition happening right now, which you can register using that link below the video. There's huge prize money over here and a bunch of different prizes as well, all sorts of things. You can win crypto, you can win match tickets, you can win signed football, etc. All of this stuff right here using that link below the video to 2bit. So obviously if you're going to be trading crypto anyway or preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well check this out. Take advantage of this using that link below the video. It's no extra cost to you, so you might as well check it out once again. And once again, in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, and right now we don't really have a significant level of liquidity that's relatively close to the price. We have a small amount at around 93,500, a small amount at around 98,000, and still that decent amount at around 89,000 approximately, just above 89,000. But obviously between the current price and let's just say 89,000, we also have a lot of support that we need to pay attention to, especially that 92 to 94K area. And so overall, those are my expectations and my trading strategy and predictions moving forward in the short to mid-term here for the next few days or the next 1 or 2 weeks. And with that being said, if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, right now, obviously over the last 1 week, we have seen a slight little bullish move, but overall, in terms of the trend or the price structure that we're currently in, it's clearly looking very neutral, just basically bouncing around sideways in a bit of a sideways price range right now for the Bitcoin dominance. And so in case you're new to all of this, that basically means a lot of the major altcoins out there on average will likely be performing very similar price action to whatever Bitcoin is doing, which means, like I said throughout the video, if Bitcoin's likely going to show a little bit of weakness, most likely for the weekend, but then perhaps in the new week at some stage, maybe within the next 1 week or so, we start to see a little bit more of a recovery, we'll likely see something very similar to that for a lot of the major altcoins on average. Obviously, there's always some outliers in the altcoin market, but just on average, expect something similar to whatever Bitcoin is doing. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, right now the price of ETH is obviously still running into this resistance at close to 3.4K, but really in between around 3.3k to 3.4k. We have a lot of resistance around there on the price chart, and we also have more resistance at around 3.6k to 3.7k if the price actually gets back up there. And as for support, we have a small amount of support at around 3250, give or take, and also a lot of support in between 3000 to 3.1k. But if we're taking a look at this daily Ethereum price chart right now, we're still retesting this previous descending line of resistance, now acting as support, which is currently sitting at about 3260, so just below 3.3k. And so kind of like how it's important for Bitcoin to hold above around 94k to keep this breakout active for the price of Bitcoin, it's similar for Ethereum, where the price of ETH really needs to hold above around 3260 to keep this breakout still active, which, in case you're wondering, we have a technical price target at around 4,200. So 4.2k per Ethereum as the technical price target for the breakout for this triangle pattern. But remember, that would completely invalidate if we see a confirmed break back below around 3260. So especially daily candle closes below 3260, and especially if we fail to get back above that level, that would completely invalidate the breakout and the price target for this pattern. And if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at the 3-hour Ethereum price chart, obviously over the last 1 day or so, in fact over the last few days, we have continued this short-term cool-off, showing a bit of weakness, lacking bullish momentum, which is perfectly expected. This is very normal price action. This is exactly what I've been talking about over the last few days, since basically right around here, because we hit well into overbought here in the 3-hour Ethereum RSI. So usually when we hit extremely overbought, we should be expecting the RSI to reset over the next few days, at least here in the shorter term, which means most likely either some choppy sideways price action or maybe a bit of a pullback just for the next couple of days or so. And obviously over the last couple of days, that's exactly what's been playing out as predicted. And like I said earlier, for Bitcoin, with Bitcoin potentially going to struggle a little bit just for the weekend, maybe even going over to Monday as well, struggling just a little bit here, we could likely see something similar. So basically the same sort of price action continuing moving forward just over the next couple of days. But considering the fact that the RSI is already basically reset, maybe in a couple of days from now, so not in the next couple of days, but maybe let's just say, for example, on Tuesday when the stock market opens back up again, sometime in the new week, we could likely continue another move towards the upside, considering at least for now the shorter term trend for Ethereum is still currently bullish. We're still forming higher lows and higher highs. So if we're looking at the actual trend, we're still bullish. Just the short-term move within the trend is obviously a bit of a setback, kind of like what we saw just here. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the daily time frame, right now the price of Solana is continuing to struggle at my exact area of resistance that I've talked about for many, many months now on the channel, still sitting in between 143 to 147. So continue to expect a lot of resistance, which means a lot of struggle and likely rejections from this area on the price chart, especially that 147 level acting as key resistance to pay attention to, which we're still testing right now as of recording this video. But considering the fact that this bullish divergence is also still active on the daily Solana price chart, it means that we're likely going to continue to retest this resistance over the coming days. Once again, maybe over the weekend, don't necessarily expect a huge breakout. In fact, if we do start to see a bit of a breakout over the weekend, basically be a little bit skeptical of that breakout, considering that Bitcoin and stocks, for example, likely going to struggle. Obviously, the stock market closed for the weekend, but basically at the end of the trading week, the stock market was struggling a little bit. Bitcoin likely going to struggle for the weekend. So just be skeptical if we start to see any little breakout here over the weekend. But if the breakout happens in the new week when markets are back to recovering, for example, then we can be a bit more confident in a possible breakout actually starting to confirm. And so in other words, it is quite likely we'll continue to struggle a little bit around this resistance, but not necessarily play out a huge rejection like this just for the weekend is overall what my expectations are. And as for support, I would expect some support at close to 140 and major support at around 134 if the price would actually get back down there. And if we eventually break out above 147, maybe in the new week, for example, in that situation, I would expect the next major resistance in between around 166 to 170. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, not much has changed over the last 1 day on this chart right here. We still have a massive bearish divergence to watch out for, not yet been invalidated, which has been perfectly playing out over multiple months as I actually talked about all the way back here at almost all-time highs, end of July, early August. I warned about this multi-month pullback. You can even watch my videos all the way back then. But with that being said, we're still running into and bouncing from this major level of support here at around $1.80. So keep that in mind. And if we're zooming into the daily time frame, we're also still testing this exact Fibonacci level of support at around $2.05. But really in between $2 to $2.05 is the area of support that I'll be focusing on right now for XRP, just in the short term. And as I've explained over the last few days recently here on the channel, XRP is clearly looking quite weak. In fact, even more weak than Bitcoin and other altcoins. So don't necessarily expect a massive bullish move or huge bullish momentum, even if Bitcoin, for example, starts to see a bit of a bounce maybe in the new week. Obviously, XRP, once again, still displaying a lot of weakness, but obviously we're still running into this support, which means, at least for now, this is preventing further bearish price action because we're being supported by this area on the price chart at $2 to $2.05. And so just over the next 1 or 2 days, we're likely going to continue to retest into that area right there, but then still likely hold that at least for a little longer. Obviously, we really need to see some sort of bounce for Bitcoin and stocks in the new week in order to avoid a breakdown here for XRP, because once again, XRP is looking quite weak, but just for the next 1 or 2 days, we're likely still going to hold this area as support. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, it's a somewhat similar situation for Chainlink, but Chainlink is not necessarily looking as weak as what XRP is looking like, but at least over the next couple of days, I still expect a bit of weakness for Chainlink as well, just for the weekend. As I've been saying throughout the video, obviously, we're likely going to be lacking bullish momentum for the long weekend, potentially through to Monday as well. And so that means either expect some choppy sideways price action or maybe a slight little pullback, not necessarily a huge crash, but basically just calling off a little bit in the short term is very, very likely for Chainlink. And as for support and resistance, we still have a lot of support at around 1330 to 1350, and we have more support at around 1280 to 1290, and resistance, we have a lot of resistance at around 1410 to 1420, and more resistance at around $14.70 to $15. And so obviously not much has changed over the last 1 day, but overall, those are still my expectations for the next couple of days here in the short term for Chainlink and a lot of these major crypto assets, and the key levels to watch out for, and of course my trading strategy moving forward. And as always, if you want to take these sort of trades for yourself, check out the links below this video to those exchanges. If you want to take advantage of some major bonuses that you can take advantage of using those links below this video if you want to. And of course, if you want to know how you can take these sort of trades for yourself, no matter what direction the price is going, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.